Oh yeah, music. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde? Ah, ahí está. I decided I want to listen to Aurora today, and hopefully it's not charged, but hopefully, ooh, it died right away. Damn. I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up and plug it in. Plug it in, plug it in. Yeah, it's dead. Hold. Hold. Come on. Nah. Oh, there we go. There we go. I see it blinking at me, but I just want to just let me put Spotify on really quick. No. No. Come on. Hold out. Just hold out. One more time. Come on. Just give me some Aurora. I just need me some Aurora. That's all. Plug it in. Plug it. Oh, wait. I'll wait for it to load, and then I'll get some Aurora. How you doing out there tonight? How's your Saturday night? Come on, one more time. Aurora, Aurora. There we go. Come on, one more time. One more time! There we go. Okay, we got Aurora playing. That's all I need. Hi, one person. How are you tonight? How is it going? Oh, that's pretty loud. Okay, bye. It's gonna do that thing where it's gonna go from 0 to like 21 people. It's always so weird when that happens. Just like the sea. Oh, Gorgira. There we go. Okay, there we go. Is anyone out there an Aurora fan? I love me some Aurora. That's my girl. I feel like I did that incorrectly. Ooh, skirt. I know you will. Can't cry. What a perfect song. You can cry. Do you miss the sadness when it's gone? The river run by. The river run by. Though you're in need. Man, I wish I could go see Aurora. She's gonna be in town. She's gonna be at a festival, but I don't have the funds to go. It would be really nice too, but nope. I did see her this year though, because when she is here full in concert, I go every single time because Aurora's my girl. She's my girl. I love that queen. I was very upset this past year when I saw Aurora because I'm not a big drinker, although I have been called to drink wine yesterday and today, but at her concert, I blacked out and I didn't even drink that much and I missed some of the concert. And and it made me really upset and frustrated because there's parts of the concert that I just don't remember. And I saw some videos on it online and I was like, I don't even remember that. And some of the songs, so like, I was there probably dancing my face off, but like I was not cognizantly there, so that made me sad. This one is gone home, run wild, let the river run wild. You can cry, you can cry. Ooh, skirt. That's not correct. There we go. Then it's gone home. Oh, hi, Aurora Grace. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'm listening to Aurora right now. Thank you. That's so kind of you. I'm like just knitting, jamming to Aurora right now, waiting for anyone to come in for some little conversation. Hit the river of wild. I actually need to charge my controller. I'm listening to Aurora, although, did you see Chimyab won the belt? Chim, I don't know what that means. Do you like the color pink? Well, right now the color pink is my daughter's favorite color. So, and she requested for I found this yarn and it's really, really soft and plush. And so I thought my daughter would really like it. And she asked me to make her a little blanket. So I'm brand new to knitting. All she's going to get is a stitch and this pretty long. Or I'm going to make it to like maybe a full square and then it'll be a little blanket for her. Nice and soft. Thank you. That's sweet. Yeah, and she's really sweet because like I said, I'm brand new and I'm just practicing, and everything I make, she's just like, Mom, you did so great. You did great. And she's 3. So it's just, she's so sweet. But this album of Aurora, if you're interested in listening to Aurora, is step 2. I forget what it's something. Oh, that's so sweet. Connections of a Different Kind, I think it's what it's called. So. In a concrete jungle, LA. How is everyone's night going? How's your Saturday night going? Mine's been a wild night. How's your night going? Monk? I don't know what any of that means. I smash. Smash. Okay, cool. I'm not gonna try it. Kamzat. I don't know what that. I'm not even gonna try to attempt that. Come on, animal. I'm not asking this to be weird and you don't need to answer, but how old is your daughter? She's 3 years old. She's 3 years old, and I'm told by like everyone that they're like, she has such a large vocabulary. And I'm like, yeah, because her and we're always, I don't stop talking. And I talk to her, not like she's an adult, but I talk to her like she's a person. I don't talk to her like she's like a little kid. Even though she is a little kid, like we're all about regulating our emotions and all of that and taking our deep breaths and, you know, toddler jargon. But also the shows that she watches. The other day she was like, Mama, when something is aerodynamic, it goes like this. And when it's not aerodynamic, it cannot. And I was just like, what are you talking about? What is a 3-year-old telling me about aerodynamics? What? And it's so funny, just her little personality, because I was telling her, I was just like, I love you so much, girlfriend. She was like, little kids with large vocabularies, they are so cute. Yes, they are. And she's also very emotionally intelligent because that is her mom. And so we were at a festival and there was this toddler throwing themselves on the ground, screaming and crying. And she runs up to them and she's like, Mom, she looks at me, she says, Mom, they need to take a deep breath. And I said, Rosemary, I was like, girlfriend, I was like, that's not your job. Like, you don't need to do that. And she said, but she needs comfort. I could give her a hug. And I said, her grandma's got it. Her grandma's got it, babe. And she was like, okay, fine. Okay, fine. My silly girl. I know. She's very caring. And that just reminds me that, like, hey, you know, that's me. If I'm the mom and she's coming out like that, that's, you know, that's my job. I love being a mom. I love being a mom. I wish I could have. I look forward to the day when I have more children, because I would like to have more children. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Their minds, they're just so, you know, new to this earth. I have a question. Do you know who Colby Brock is? No, I have no idea who that is. Is that like an influencer or something? Is it an artist? Oh, he's a ghost hunter. So cool. So, the ghost hunters that I follow, are, oh gosh, what's his name? What's his channel? It's like paranormal something. His name is Colin something. Um, Very cool. Sometimes ghosts come to me. I don't really hunt for ghosts. They just come to me. I've heard of Zach Baggins. Yes, of course. Um, yes. I saw something really funny the other day. It was someone, I was scrolling through TikTok and it was someone's podcast. So it was just like a short from a podcast. But they were talking about, they're like, Zach Baggins has picked so much beef with the spiritual world. Like, when he dies, like, what do you think is going to happen to him on the other side? Like, are they immediately going to be like, why were you, what's the word? Why were you taunting us? Why were you being so rude to us? And they were like, or is he going to go to the other side and just be like full on demon and start haunting people himself? So who's to say? Who's to say? I know, right? It was so funny. Like, when he gets over there, are they going to be pissed that he's there? Because I saw one where he was like, again, scrolling, where he was just like, I don't know, antagonizing. He was very antagonizing, which, like, why are you antagonizing the dead, bro? Why are you antagonizing the dead? But as a psychic, I've definitely have had ghosts come to me before in order to be passed over. It doesn't happen all the time because I don't allow it energetically. But before, I knew that I needed to, like, put up some shields and be like, the image that I like to use is like an energetic psychic, like a little neon sign, and I turn my sign off and it's like, no, respect is the most important thing. No, totally, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing about ghosts too is that they are attracted, they're attracted to light, especially wandering spirits or earthbound spirits. They are attracted to light, and if they are struggling to, like, move on or pass on, they're gonna find a light in order to help them, especially if it's like time for them. So that's my dog. That's Mr. Bojangles. Yeah. So before I started psychic school, it's interesting because my friend, her family, they're very, I know, oh, thank you, aw. Because I did attend psychic school, but before I attended psychic school, my friend, we grew up together, and we refound each other in our early 20s in Georgia, and I'm in Washington State. So we refound each other in Georgia, of all places. She was going to college there, and my husband was stationed there. And so, I mean, the universe was like, hey, you guys were friends as little kids. You guys kind of fell out of touch. Now you need your best friend back. Like, you need to be best friends again. And so she's also in a military marriage, and she moved to North Carolina. And so I went to go visit her. And I remember when I was visiting her, there's always weird spiritual stuff that happens at her houses. I went to go visit her, and I remember sleeping, and this little girl came up to me while I was sleeping. Like, she ran into the room and, like, looked over my bed, and I was like, whoa. Personally, I do witchcraft, and that means something that you guys just found each other like that. No, exactly. It does mean something. she's my best friend. She's my confidant. She's like, we needed to be back into each other's life, and that's how it happened. We needed the support. So that was like a first encounter when she was living in North Carolina. That little girl like ran up to my bed and was just like staring at me, and I was like, oh, that's freaky. But the next time when she was living in, that's so cool you do witchcraft, by the way, Aurora Grace. Like, what do you like to do? Do you like to do spell work? Like, go ahead and drop what you like to do. I'd love to know. The last spell work I did was a cord cutting ritual, and it did not work. Did not work. I guess I didn't know what I was doing. But it very... From the ritual itself, I recorded it. It evidently did, like, I was like, oh, I don't think this is over yet. But the second encounter that I had, I was just recently in psychic school in, like, the first level, because the school that I go to, there's 3 tiers. And my friend was living in Tennessee at the time, and we both just had our children. We had newborns. Are 3 months old. So I traveled to Tennessee to go visit her and stay with her and her family. Spells and stuff like that can be hard. Yeah. And so I was alone in the house with my daughter, and I was nursing her in the rocking chair, and I had my eyes closed, and I was grounding us. Actually, no. Go back to the first night we got there. My daughter wouldn't calm down. Like I said, 3 months old. We were in, the guest room, and my daughter just would not calm down or go to sleep. And I could feel a spirit. And I was like, I said, whatever spirit is coming to us right now, I was like, I was asked to be here. I was invited to be in this house, and you are not allowing me or my daughter to go to sleep. So get the fuck out now. And then my friend's son immediately woke up and started crying. And I was like, ooh, oops, shit, sorry. And so maybe 2 days later, I was in the house alone. And, hey, I have a question. What kind of shampoo do you use? I'm not trying to be weird, by the way. What kind of shampoo do I use? I don't know, something from Costco. It's like Nexus, maybe? But it's Costco. A Costco shampoo. And conditioner. And then I use a leave-in conditioner called Mixed Chicks Hair Care Products. Which I was at the store the other day, and the Mixed Chicks leave-in conditioner was $21. I don't remember it being $21 when I first bought it. I didn't like it when I first bought it because I didn't know how to use it, but I know how to use it now. Okay, well, I got to go, but good luck, and you're doing great, and I wish you well. You too, Aurora Grace. Thanks for coming in. So back to my story. I was in a rocking chair nursing my daughter. I was alone in my friend's house in Tennessee, and like I said, I had my eyes closed. What is going on here? Oh, that's not. Hold on, I have to fix this stitch. Sorry. Thank you. Bear with me. Fixing the stitch. Boom. There we go. So I'm nursing my daughter in the rocking chair. My eyes are closed, and it's so hard to explain because, like, yes, I'm sitting in the chair and my eyes are closed and I'm grounding my daughter, but it's like I'm looking through someone else's eyes. And what I see is the perspective of that I'm looking through someone else's eyes, and they're walking down the hallway, and they walk into the room, and then they look down at me. And I was so caught off guard. I look up like that and open my eyes, and I'm like, who the fuck is there? What the heck? Like, it was so eerie. Like I said, I was watching from their eyes, from their perspective, walk down the hallway, come into the room, and stare over me as I'm nursing my child. And so my friend gets home, the kids are in bed, we're having a glass of wine, and I told her, I said, hey, you have a male spirit in your house. I don't know what that means, but you have a male spirit in your house. And she's like, yeah, I believe you, we probably do. And then I heard him walk down the stairs, and I was like, do you hear that? And she said, yeah, I do. And you could hear the stairs creaking, like someone was walking down the stairs, and then the room got immediately cold. And I was like, ooh, I was like, he's in here right now. And we both got goosebumps. And like, he wasn't malevolent. He was definitely like a benevolent spirit. He just seemed lost. And so I can't remember what night it was. And I remember calling my sister and being like, hey, what do I do? And she was like, he probably wants to be crossed over. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to cross spirits over. What are you talking about? And so there was one night when I was in my stay there where I meditated on it, and I asked for a name, and he said his name was Walter. And he said that he really liked my friend's son because Walter used to have a son. And one night I was like setting the intention to like help him cross over. And while I was in that period of falling asleep in dream state, not quite sleeping yet, this big white door came up and opened up, and this little boy walked through the door, and his name was Samuel. And he went and he grabbed his dad and he thanked me, and then he walked his dad through the door, and the door sealed, and then the door disappeared. And I was like, what just happened? And then I passed out and I fell asleep. So kind of like, so before I was like intensely in psychic school and really studying my practice of psychic and my intuitive awareness, I I guess naturally crossed over a spirit in my sleep, which was just like, I don't know, that was a really interesting experience. And it was so nice to be validated by my friend who felt the spirit. And then even her husband was like, no, he was like, I totally believe you. So that extra validation was also really cool. Although her new house, there's some weird stuff in her new house in Oklahoma. They're, like I said, military family. They travel a lot. Did that go? There we go. I was too, I don't know, distraught and trauma when I went to her place in Oklahoma to do anything. But her house in Oklahoma definitely needs some work. There's some, how do I want to describe it? They're not angry spirits. They're wounded is the word. Wounded. But it's interesting because if she were to develop, I bet she'd be a really good medium, because of that work that I'm doing is mediumship, right? And my experiences have to do with her multiple houses. And like I was saying earlier, that spirits that need help crossing over look for that light. And so my friend, who doesn't have psychic awareness or developing her intuition, has her light on without her even knowing it. And so that's why these spirits are coming into her home. And like I said, they're not bad spirits. They're just spirits looking to be crossed over. They're actually quite gentle, peaceful spirits. That same friend, so I was doing my usual clearing of my land, of the property that I'm on in my house, and I noticed that there was a spirit lingering in my backyard, and I was like, who the fuck are you? So like I astral traveled out there, and I was like, what are we doing? Who are you? And what are you doing? And he mentioned a name, and the name I associate with my friend, that's her ex-boyfriend. And I was like, okay. I was like, what is going on? He said, well, can you cross me over? And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I don't know who you are. He said, I'm his brother. And I was like, all right, sure. And so I opened up, and like at this point I had, my psychic tools. And so I opened up a door. Hi, T. Hi. I'm just sharing a story time about my mediumship and ghosts coming to me and crossing them over first without even knowing how to do it. And then this story now, like I had more wisdom to do it. Have you ever encountered a demon soul? Yes, I'll tell that story. Yes, absolutely. I will tell that. Yes, I have multiple stories. I'll share those stories after I finish this one. So like I said, this spirit was in my backyard. He said he was associated with my friend's ex-boyfriend. And he asked to be crossed over. So I crossed him over. And when I opened the door, a little boy came through, an infant. and they crossed over together, and I closed the door. So I called my friend and I was like, hey, so I don't know anything about this. I was like, does your ex-boyfriend have a brother that died or something? And she was like, yes, why are you asking me that? And I was like, well, he showed up in my backyard and asked me to cross him over. What happened? And so she said her ex-boyfriend is a cop, and his best friend growing up, who was like a brother, was having a domestic violence issue with his wife. And her ex-boyfriend was called to the scene to deal with the issue. And he was so far gone in whatever mental illness he has, he had to unalive his best friend as a cop and as his duty. And then I asked her about the little boy that came through, and she said that that was a miscarriage, that the girlfriend of the man who was unalived, that was the miscarriage of their son. And I was like, holy moly. I was like, well, he's crossed over now. And the biological brother of her ex-boyfriend actually is in the same town that she just moved to. So it was like that spirit came to me and was like, this energy needs to be cleared, and please help me cross over. Like, because because they were all best friends, those brothers. Yes, it wasn't his brother, but they were such best friends. It was like having to unalive his own brother. But his biological brother is in the same town as my best friend now in Oklahoma. So that was a crazy story. I was just like, just another day in the life of being psychic. But to your story of, have I ever encountered a demon soul? Absolutely. So when I was which year was this? Was this in 23? Yeah, so 2023 was my my intensive year in psychic school, where like you have a bunch of access to the teacher. She's like teaching you really in-depth techniques. You're really diving into your own shit and clearing it out. And I remember going to sleep one night and I woke up, and at the foot of my bed, which you do not want demons at the foot of your bed in your room because it's kind of terrifying. But I also had a really good practice of having energetic boundaries up around my bed, but not quite yet around my room or my whole house. And so standing at the foot of my bed was this it was blue faced, and it looked like a demon, and it had these tusks. And I was just like, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I called in Jesus. I was like, Jesus, can you please come in here and take this guy out? Like, what is happening here? And so I went to my book, the Encyclopedia of Spirits, and I set the intention, and I said, what was at the foot of my bed? Like, if I'm going to get any information, and at that point I wasn't skilled enough to just like go into meditation and ask my higher self. So I went to, my encyclopedia, I set the intention, I asked who it was, and I let the book fall open, and it fell open to a description that looked exactly like him at the foot of my bed. I can't remember what his name was. He was some type of like Indian spirit that was a sex demon at the foot of my bed. That was like, I don't know, trying to get something from me. It was wild. And then I had another experience where I was just doing dishes. I was just standing at my kitchen window at my sink doing dishes. And all of a sudden I had this vision. I felt like I was in Charmed or something, like Phoebe having a vision. And I had this vision where I live in Washington State, is really close to, I live in Puget Sound. In Puget Sound, there's a bunch of waterways all over the place. And so I had this vision of, again, another demonic, like with horns. It reminded me of like, the Wonder Woman movie where Ares, it kind of looked like that, but he was walking out of the water and he was coming towards my house. And he was like, I'm coming to collect. He was like, I'm coming to collect. And I was like, what are you collecting? And he was like, "Oh, I need something from you." Again, it was a sexual thing, and which makes a lot of sense. I am a survivor of CSA, COSA, and RAMCOA, and if you don't know what those acronyms mean, you're welcome to look them up. But they have to do with, you know, horrible things that happen to children when they're younger in a schmessual sense. But anyway, I was like, well, no, I have all these wonderful tools. No, you don't get to come into my house and you don't get to tell me what to do, and you're not collecting anything from me at all. And so I immediately like put up my boundaries, put up my energetic boundaries, and didn't think anything of it. However, and this is why I will never I will never entertain another person or like be in a relationship with a person that doesn't know how to manage their own energy field, because my husband at the time, now my ex-husband, he never believed in energy, which is just like a crazy thing to say, especially since he's a scientist. Because he did not have any energetic protections up, that demon came through him and attached to me while we were sleeping. And so because I was in that intensive course, when we got to the lesson on foreign energy and energies attaching themselves to you, I was able to recognize that energy and be able to clear it from my field. Because I recognized with one of the tools that were taught in psychic school is how to clear stuck memories. And I have a bunch of stuck memories from my childhood, especially because of the CSA and the COSA. And what I did in those moments of dissociation, or what I would call blacking out, is I was jumping into my astral body. And this is, I mean, they don't say it like this scientifically, but they do say like when you are experiencing intense trauma, you can leave your body. And when you're leaving your body like that, you are jumping into your astral body. So like when they say you're on the ceiling and you're looking down at your body and you're looking down at what's happening to you, you jumped out of your body. You are now, your consciousness is in your astral body and you are looking down at it. So when those things were happening to me when I was a child, I was jumping into my astral body and I was leaving the situation. And sometimes I would go and I would find good spirits that would help me, but sometimes I would go and I would find demonic spirits and they also would help me. But they always wanted some type of exchange. And so that was that spirit coming back however many years later saying that he was coming to collect. And it's just like, no, you're not. You don't get to collect anything from me, even if I made a deal with you when I was a child. I don't care how things work in the spiritual world. You know, I had no comprehension or ability of what deal I was making with you in order to be able to survive those experiences. I did have a very positive, when I was doing one of the techniques in order to clear stuck memory, it was a very like violent memory with an abuser. And when I went in to go clear the memory, a portal opened, and how old was I? I don't know how old I was. It was maybe 8 years, and less than that. I was like 9, 10, maybe 10 years old, 11, 12. I don't know. How old was I? I was 7. Okay. I was 7 and a portal opened up. And like I said, I was in my astral body. So I walked through the portal and it was this beautiful, beautiful cavern and cave. And there were these mermaids there. And they welcomed me and they were called the Crystal Mermaids. I have no idea if that exists. I don't know who the Crystal Mermaids are. I haven't really gone back and like spoke with them. They presented themselves to me when I went in to clear that memory out of my energy field and bring it to the present moment. And they brought me through the portal in order to help me breathe because I was being asphyxiated at the time. So that was a really interesting encounter to go, not only to clear from my energy field, but to go look back on it and see that not only was I like making deals with, in order, you know, for my survival with like demonic spirits, but there were benevolent spirits that were coming through in order to help. Because that's what I mean, because it was frequent. It was frequent. And that's what I would do in order to survive, in order to not have to remember what was happening to me. I would fly out of my body and I would go to the spirit world and I would go to the astral realm and I would do things there. Yeah. But what really helped is someone in my psychic school, when we were exchanging readings together, and I was telling them about that, you know, that's what I would do. I would make all of these exchanges in the astral realm. And she was like, she was like, you know, that's like a marker of a powerful psychic there in of itself, because some people, like she said, some people will leave their body and they'll go hide behind the couch and watch it happen. She said, you were leaving your body and you were, you know, doing different things, like going on adventures, kind of. I don't know. They weren't really adventures, like it was survival. But what she said that really helped me, she said, because you were a child during that time, she's like, every deal that you made, especially with malevolent beings, she was like, they're null and void. They're null and void. You were a child. There was no consent, which is tricky in the spiritual world because spirits don't care about consent. There is no consent in the spiritual world. But that, like I said, that was really helpful and helped put me at ease. And these, you know, demons that were coming to collect, the one at the foot of the bed, the one that came out of the water, they stopped approaching me after that. So, spiritual world is wild. It's the Wild West in there. But it's also interesting as well because the astral realm, because, you know, people talk about the 5D. The astral realm is what they call the 4D. And in the 4D, I would say that's where nefarious things can happen because there is no need for consent in the 4D. And then there's the 5D, which is more ascended than the 4D. And your frequency needs to be higher. So in order to be in the 5D, you need to have a higher frequency. So those demons that exist in the 4D, their frequency isn't high enough to penetrate the 5D. Because it's all about having a elevated frequency. Trying to think what else I have. Anything else? And it's interesting because, like, my teacher, when I was in, like, that intensive class, she interviewed me for, like, a promotional for the next upcoming intensive group that's going to sign up for the class. And I remember she asked me, she was like, have you always been psychic? And I was like, no. And then I was like, wait a second. Yes, I have been. I just never considered myself because I didn't have the education or the training. But so many people don't have the education or the and I feel so grateful and lucky to have that education and training. But it was just like, yeah, actually, I've always been led by my intuition my whole life. Yeah, and a lot of decision making, but that could be from having a south node in Cancer, meaning that my past life was very intuitive led. And then in this life, my north node is in Capricorn, meaning I need more structure in how I go about whatever it is my life purpose is. I need more structure to it instead of the intuitive energy that I relied on in my past life. But yeah, no, spirits were always around, and I was very attracted to death growing up. Like, growing up Catholic and being an altar serving at funerals. I've been to so many funerals as a child. I had both of my grandparents die when I was 13 years old, so like that was pretty young for multiple deaths. But also, I lived in a very old craftsman home. That was like the person who built it ended up living in the home, and we lived there 100 years later. Like I said, old home, and they were still present in the home. They weren't again, and they weren't malevolent. They cause any harm or anything, but like they were present and it was just normal. It was just like you would hear them walking down the stairs, you would hear them opening up the front door, because it, like I said, it was an old house, so like it was very distinct, the sound of the front door opening, but there was no one there. So like you had the front door, the front entry room, and then you had the living room. And so the way that the couch was set up, you would sit on the couch and you could look into the front entry room and you could see up the stairs, and then you could see someone, if they walked through the door, you would see them walk through. And so growing up, if you're in the home, if you're in the house alone and watching TV on the couch, like I said, it was a wood door, and it was so distinct how it opened up. It made this weird sound, and you would hear that sound of the door opening, and you'd be, hello, hey, who came home? No one. No one was there. The door was closed. Or you would look up at the stairs and you would hear someone coming down the stairs, but there was no one there. Because again, craftsman home, wooden stairs, you just hear them walking down the stairs, and it was just like, oh, okay, well, that's happening again. And then like when I was younger, I would hear them, they would call my name. They didn't do that all the time. They would just do that sometimes. It sounded, and I didn't think much of it because it just sounded like my younger brother, but like it would happen when I was like the last person in the house. So like our car was in the backyard, so everyone would be in the car going to school, and I'd be the last person putting on my shoes at the bottom of the stairs, and I would hear my name being whispered in my ear. I'd be like, who? So freaky deaky experiences for sure. Ooh, I have a cool one about I don't know what it is. I should do a reading on this for myself, but like throughout my life, I have come across and have like worked in Masonic buildings. Like, I can't tell you how many times I go past a Masonic building. So I used to work in an old Masonic building. It's called the Landmark Convention Center. And it was, so it's so it was like an event space, and people would have weddings there, but there also was a huge theater, and they would do concerts there, and they also had different rooms. So like my company, Tacoma Opera, we operated out of that building, and then on that wing as well, there was like a daycare or something. And so sometimes I would be the last person in the building, and I would have to lock up the building. And so when I was on the second floor, and there was probably 5 or 6 floors to that building. So I would leave the second floor to go lock up the building, and I'd have to walk past the service elevator, because there was one elevator that worked, really old elevator, and then the service elevator was out of service. It did not work. So one night I was leaving the building, and the lights were all off. I had turned the lights off. I was walking down the stairs. I had to go back past the service elevator, and I legit went like this. I was like, I feel you there. I do not want to look, because I know if I look, there's going to be a man standing there, and I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And so I just, put my hand up, walked down, left, and locked the door, and on my merry way, right? So one day, I'm taking out the garbage, and there's a ghost tour going by. And the ghost tour is going by my building, and they're talking about the building. They're talking about the history of the building. And then they start talking about the ghosts in the building. And they talked about specifically the service elevator, and how there was a service man, a maintenance man named Charlie, who, I don't remember what year it was, who fell down the elevator shaft and died in the elevator shaft. And they were saying that he haunts that building. And so here I am. I probably made that person's night that night, because here I am holding these trash bags, and I just was like, they stopped to listen, and I was like, hey, I work in that building. And I told them, I said, just, a couple weeks ago, I was closing up. I work on the second floor right next to the service elevator, and I got this really eerie feeling when I was leaving the building that there was someone standing next to the service elevator. And I kind of went like that because I was too afraid to look at them or to see if someone was actually there. And so, like I said, it probably made that ghost tour person's night, because they got a validation from my story as a person who works in that building. And so from then on, if I was the last person to leave and I was leaving, I still didn't want to look. I didn't want to see it, but I would say, "Hi, Charlie," and I would acknowledge him and I'd go on my way. But at that point, I had no idea of my like, or no practice of my psychic intuitive abilities. So it's not like he was asking for me to cross him over or anything. I wouldn't have really known how to do that at that point. But yeah, no, it's weird. So like when I was in Georgia, I used to work in a Masonic building. My friend was she worked for a children's home, and it was the Masonic Children's Home of Georgia. So I was like, okay, fine. And if you know anything about the Masons, they're kind of like, eh. That's all I can say to describe it. So there was that, and I worked in that Masonic building. I didn't really feel anything there at that time. And then I worked in a Masonic building when I was working at Tacoma Opera. And then I went to Salem, Massachusetts for a women's retreat. And we were looking for, gosh. So we went and had dinner at Bridget Bishop's restaurant. And Bridget Bishop I want to say a character in Salem, Massachusetts. And I say she was a real person, though. She wasn't a character. But she was a very powerful woman because she owned land. And if you owned land at that point in time, it meant you had money, right? So, and it meant that if you owned land, it meant that you had say. It was very interesting. It was so cool because the trading house or that she owned and the land that she owned was the first place in the United States that made a long distance phone call to Europe in the 1600s, which is really cool. And the Salem witch trials happened in 1692, I think. So it was around that time. Anyway, so we were the group of us, the retreat that I was on. We had dinner at her restaurant, and then and then afterwards we went into the courtyard, and it was really interesting because the night before we had done a ghost tour. What am I doing? What is happening? What did I just hold on? Sorry, knitting. Okay, cool. Did I mess that up? Oh, I totally messed that up. Oopsies. Is that right? Okay, there we go. I fixed it. When we did the ghost tour and we walked into her courtyard, we didn't go into the restaurant on the tour, but we walked into her courtyard, and immediately my third chakra just was like spasming, and I was like, oh boy, there's boundary issues here. And then the person who was giving the ghost tour went on to tell us that like they stole her land. They stole that courtyard was hers, and they like completely just destroyed all of everything that she owned, and then unalived her for being a witch. Go figure. Damn it, I missed. What did I do? Which that restaurant is really cool. We had a really awesome waitress who showed us footage of a glass being thrown at a waiter, which was pretty wild. But what does this tie into the Masons that I was talking about before, Bridget Bishop? So after we had dinner there, this was after the ghost tour, and we had all that knowledge about her. We had dinner to honor her, and we walked up to the walked around, and we went to the courtyard, and we started channeling. Our leader of the retreat of the group, she started channeling Bridget Bishop, and I also was using my intuitive senses to help ground the woman who was channeling, and then you pick up whatever I was picking up as well. And it was so fascinating because like there's all this atrocity that was happening to women in the Salem witch trials, and my breasts hurt so bad when I was sitting in that courtyard. Like it felt like someone had cut them off. And we channeled Bridget Bishop, and we like torture, I'm talking about my breasts, and so we asked her, like, And we had already gotten a hit about, because what they say about the Salem witch trials, why it all happens, they say it happened because little girls were telling lies. And little girls got these lies from a slave woman named Tituba. And when we went to the witch museum and we heard that history, I was like tuned in and I was taking notes and I was channeling those little girls, and they told me, they were like, we went to Tituba because we needed help, because we were being essayed by the men in our lives. And so, of course, if you're gonna start, if so, you're gonna call the little girls crazy. You're gonna say that they're doing witchcraft in order to not be held accountable for those actions, right? And like those actions, like they still happen today. Those actions are as old as time. And we got confirmation from Bridget Bishop when we were sitting in that courtyard and we were channeling, or Miss Duchess was channeling that the little girls also came, actually no, that because Bridget had power there, men came to her and invited her to those rituals that they were doing with the little girls, and she would not stand for it. She thought it was sick and she wanted to get justice for them. And because she knew their secret, they chose to unalive her and steal her land and call her a witch, because they wanted her, because she had money. They were like, be in our group or, we're going to unalive you. And she refused to be in their group. And that's what happened to Bridget Bishop. So that night, there was an 80s dance party happening. And after we channeled her, we left some offerings for her in her courtyard. And we went on our way to go to the dance party. And we got lost on our way to the dance party. And the next thing you know, we're walking past a Masonic building. What? What? And it just so happened that the dance party that we were going to was in a restaurant that was located inside this Masonic building. So it was just like, what on earth? Which just felt like a huge confirmation of everything that we channeled in that courtyard. So I don't know what my attraction or why I am called and always going past Masonic buildings, but it happens all the flippin' time to me. Like one time I was just lost trying to get home. And I knew I was kind of going the right direction because I really am proud of myself in directions. And I was in an area that I don't know very well. And so I was just kind of going with the flow. I knew I needed to go a certain direction in order to get home, even though I was pretty far away from home. And so I was like, all right, let's just go this way. And the next thing you know, I'm going past this giant structure. It looked like a freaking castle. And it was like the oldest Masonic home or Masonic place in Washington State. And what it was originally built for was to be a retirement home for the Masons. But it's just an abandoned freaking giant building now. And I was like, God, that's so odd. Like, why am I always going by Masonic buildings? And like driving to my sister's house, like there's the main way, you can take the main road, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to take the back roads. And I realized taking the back roads, there's a Masonic building. And then just this past week, I was at the post office and I was driving by and I was like, oh shit, there's another Masonic building. I'm just like, what is going on with these Masonic buildings? Which the old Masonic buildings, the one that like the one that I worked in, the Landmark Convention Center, that place is wild. I'm gonna have to turn some lights on. Like it's getting dark over here. There's so many rooms in that building, and a lot of those rooms have stages. It's very odd. And then the main auditorium where they have rock concerts, because I had keys and I had access to the building, I'm gonna explore the building. Like, are you kidding me? A Masonic old, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the word Tartaria. There's some people who believe that there's no way we could have made these amazing Capitol buildings in the early 20s in a matter of a year. Because they're like, oh, it was erected, you know, between this year and that year. And it's like, no, 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 no. These, do you know how hard it is to work with granite? And we have these giant granite structured buildings that were made in a year or two? Absolutely not. So there are some people that believe that there were these, that we are settlers of a post-apocalyptic period of time called Tartaria. Anyway, so back to the building, back to the Landmark Convention Center. Underneath that main auditorium where they have rock concerts is another giant theater right underneath it in the bowels of the building. And then there's also these giant dressing rooms underneath the theater. And there's dressing rooms that can house an entire orchestra. It's just, and it's completely abandoned under there. When I was exploring it, because it's a lot of work. And the owner of the building, he's just an old man. He doesn't have a lot of money. So he's not getting crews in there to like put that building back to its former glory. I don't know, it's just wild. That building is a trip. All of those dressing rooms, the theater underneath the theater, all of the random, there's like staircases that lead to doors where there's nothing behind them. It's just, it's a trip. It's a mind F, it feels like. So I should look into that for myself energetically. Why am I energetically drawn to Masonic temples? All right, now I'm just like a glowing head, so I'm gonna go turn a light on. Okay, Lord. T, if you're still here, thanks for sticking with me in my story time. This is coming out cute. This also hides a lot of the flaws that I have. But I think, I'm trying to think what other stories I have. Notable stories. The one that's coming to mind, another story that I have, when I was 16, I was an exchange student, and I lived in Chile for a year. So I lived in another country for a whole 12 months. And a part of our exchange program, I went through Rotary, it's a great program. A part of our program is we got to do different excursion and trips with the main group. So there were 50 kids in the Rotary group, and we were all spread out throughout Chile. And so my group, we were in Talca. We were the furthest south, and there were 8 kids in our town. And we would go to meet with the full group of 50, like in Santiago, which is the capital of Chile. But then we would do like vacations. Like we went to Tierra del Fuego, Patagonia. And we also went to Easter Island, which was so freaking cool. And if you don't know what Easter Island is, if you've ever seen SpongeBob SquarePants and you know Squidward's house, that rock structure is called a moai. And there is an island in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile called Easter Island. And on that island are a bunch of those statues. They're called moais. And what they say is that they don't know why they're there, that it was impossible, coming from the granite quarries. Granite is really hard to work with. Ask carpenters about working with stone in general. It's very difficult to work with stone. And so while we were on that trip, and like there's stories, like I remember learning about Easter Island in college because the way that because they were an island and they were overusing their resources. And because they were overusing their resources and they ran out of food, they actually turned to cannibalism at one point. And I remember them taking us to the caves where people would hide from being eaten, which that was trippy being in that cave. But I remember there was one night my friend and I, we were on the hunt because we went to the beach earlier that day and we were standing in the water, and you could tell which kids were potheads because there was this huge there's this huge waft of wind that came onto the beach, and all of the potheads from the US were like, and we all perked up and we're like, do you smell that? 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 And so my friend Montana and I, that night, we decided we were going to go around, and it's such a small community, right? Like, they thrive on tourism. So we were on the hunt, and we were able to find someone, and we got weed. We were able to roll a joint. We got high, and we were sitting in like the main gazebo in that town, and we were just like stoned, looking at the water. And this was the first time where I ever like felt connected to Jesus, because Jesus came walking across the water to me while I was sitting in that gazebo. And it was so interesting because growing up Catholic, there is the Catholic, I don't know, depiction of Jesus, and that never resonated with me as a child growing up Catholic. I always was felt and told that I was doing Catholicism wrong, and I was like, no, I feel like you guys are doing it wrong. But that was the first time I ever like felt what feels like the real Jesus to me. But Chile was cool. That was a really fun time in my life. And I did a lot of traveling. I would like to do traveling like that again. I just recently got rid of a lot of clothes that I've hoarded from Chile. Like, I was there 15, 16, 17 years ago. Oh my God, I don't like being old. But I still had like a sweater from Patagonia. I had a scarf from Patagonia. I had a dress, like a swim cover dress. I had these pants that don't even fit me, and all of this stuff that I was like hoarding. And I was getting rid of clothes, and my spirit was like, Teresa, it's time to get rid of these. And I was like, but I'm not ready to let go of these memories. And my spirit was like, Teresa, you will be there again, and you will make new memories, and you will get new mementos, and you will get new trinkets from your time there. And I was like, okay, fine. All right, I can let it go. Let's let it go. But one of them was a cashmere or alpaca jacket that I was just like, really? And the zipper doesn't work on it anyway. But I was just like, I am not ready to let this go. And that's when Spirit was like, you'll get another one, honey. Like, it's okay. Make room in your life for the new abundance that is coming towards you. So I did. Oops. Okay, well, I'm actually thoroughly tired, and I think I'm going to go to bed early tonight. So thank you for being here with me and listening to my ghost story time. I'm sorry I did not pull tarot for anyone. I'll probably do that tomorrow. Actually, no, tomorrow I'm going to go live, and I'm going to meal prep. And we're going to do some meal prepping. So thank you, whoever is in here with me listening to my stories. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will see you later. Goodbye. Have a great night.